Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever wondered about the hidden gears turning behind our everyday behavior? Today, we're jumping right into a truly groundbreaking body of work on the psychology of persuasion. We're going to look specifically at how certain invisible triggers cause us to just say yes without even thinking. Let's dive into this fascinating topic together. To kick things off, let me share a real mystery with you. Picture this. A woman owns an Indian jewelry store in Arizona, and she is just completely baffled. It's the absolute peak of tourist season, her store is totally packed, and she has this display of really good quality turquoise jewelry that simply will not sell. She tries moving the display to the center of the store. Nothing. She tells her sales staff to push the items hard. Still nothing. So right before leaving on a buying trip, she scribbles an exasperated little note to her head saleswoman saying, everything in this display case, price times 1/2. She just wanted to get rid of them, even at a loss. But when she gets back, she finds that her employee had misread her messy handwriting. The employee read the 1/2 as a 2. The entire allotment of turquoise had sold out, literally at double the original price. So why on earth did that happen? Well, it really just boils down to a shortcut. These customers were mostly well-to-do vacationers who honestly didn't know much about turquoise. So they relied on a standard, everyday stereotype. Expensive equals good. Because they didn't have the time or the expertise to evaluate the turquoise themselves, they used the price as a direct indicator of quality. By simply doubling the price, the jewelry suddenly appeared highly valuable to these quality-hungry buyers. To really solve this mystery, though, and to understand our own behavior, we actually have to look away from human beings for a second and take a quick trip into the animal kingdom. Okay, let's dive into our source material. Our guide for this journey is Dr. Robert Cialdini and his absolute masterpiece of a book, Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion. Dr. Cialdini spent years not just in a lab, but actually going undercover, training with salespeople, fundraisers, and advertisers to see these principles operating in the wild. To explain that turquoise jewelry mystery, Cialdini uncovers some deeply biological clues. This brings us to a really crucial term from ethology, which is just the study of animals in their natural settings. It's called a fixed action pattern. These are intricate, blindly mechanical sequences of behavior. Think of them almost like behavior tapes recorded inside the animal's brain. When a specific situation happens, the tape gets played. But here's the crucial point. It's not the whole situation that triggers the tape. It's often just one tiny specific feature. The mother turkey brilliantly illustrates this concept. Animal behaviorist M.W. Fox ran this absolutely wild experiment. For a mother turkey, a polecat is a natural enemy. If you pull a stuffed model of a polecat toward a mother turkey in a string, she will furiously attack it, squawking and clawing the whole shebang. But Fox put a small tape recorder inside that stuffed polecat. When the recorder played the cheep cheep sound of baby turkey chicks, the mother turkey didn't just stop attacking her enemy, she lovingly gathered it underneath her. Turn the machine off, and she viciously attacks it all over again. She's acting like an automaton, entirely controlled by one single sound. Cialdini describes this mechanism perfectly with a recurring motif we're going to see throughout this explainer. Click, whir. Click, and the appropriate tape is activated. Whir, and out rolls the standard sequence of behaviors. The mother turkey hears the cheep cheep, click, and the maternal tape begins to whir. It's not a conscious choice at all. It's a completely automatic response triggered by a single cue, click, whir. Now, before we get too smug about how easily fooled a turkey can be, we have to ask a slightly uncomfortable question. Do humans have these pre-programmed tapes too? Are we just as susceptible to being tricked into playing the wrong tape at the wrong time by a single trigger feature? The answer is a resounding yes. Let's look at a famous experiment by Harvard social psychologist Ellen Langer to see exactly how this works. She tested people waiting in line to use a library Xerox machine. If she asked, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine?" Only 60% of people complied. If she provided a real reason, like because I'm in a rush, compliance shot all the way up to 94%. People like to have reasons for what they do. But here is the crazy part. She tried a third request. "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I have to make some copies?" She provided literally no new information, just a placebo reason. And yet, an astonishing 93% of people agreed. Just think about that for a second. The simple word because acted exactly like the mother turkey's cheep cheep. It was the trigger feature that caused an automatic compliance response, even when the reason that followed was completely meaningless. Just the structure of a reason was enough to trigger their shortcut. Click, whir. Now, I want to pause here because it is so easy to feel a bit silly realizing we operate like this. But we really shouldn't. We absolutely need these shortcuts. You and I live in the most rapidly moving, complex environment that has ever existed on this planet. We simply lack the time, the energy, and the capacity to carefully analyze every single aspect of every person, event, or product we encounter. Stereotypes and rules of thumb prevent mental paralysis. When we use a discount coupon, for example, we aren't just saving money, we're actually saving brain strain. We're choosing not to think, and most of the time, that efficiency is absolutely crucial for our survival. But, and this is a really big but, our reliance on these mechanical shortcuts makes us terribly vulnerable to people who know exactly how they work. Cialdini calls them compliance professionals. These are the exploiters who use our necessary shortcuts against us. And they don't do it by bludgeoning us with a heavy club. Instead, they act like masters of the Japanese martial art jujitsu. They exploit natural, existing principles, like gravity or leverage, to manipulate us without exerting any apparent personal force. We just end up feeling like our compliance was a totally natural outcome. Let's look at a prime example of one of these weapons of influence. It's called the contrast principle. It states that if a second item is fairly different from the first, we'll tend to see it as more different than it actually is. Now, what's really interesting about this beautifully simple principle is just how financially devastating it can be when used against us. Psychophysics labs demonstrate this with a classic experiment. A student puts one hand in a bucket of cold water and the other hand in a bucket of hot water. Then they plunge both hands into a single bucket of lukewarm water at the exact same time. The bewildered look on their face tells the whole story. The hand that was in the cold water feels like it's burning up, and the hand that was in the hot water feels freezing cold. It is the exact same lukewarm water. The perception of the water is entirely dependent on the event that immediately preceded it. And this doesn't just apply to temperature or weight either. It literally skews how we see each other. In one study, male college dorm residents were asked to rate a photo of a potential blind date. The students who rated her while watching an episode of the TV show Charlie's Angels viewed the blind date as significantly less attractive than those who rated her while watching a different show. The uncommon beauty of the television stars made the normal blind date seem far less attractive by mere comparison. So, how do compliance professionals jujitsu us with the contrast principle? Well, let's walk into a retail clothing store. If you want to buy a suit and a sweater, common sense might tell a salesperson to sell you the cheap sweater first, right? So you don't get sticker shock. But clothiers know better. They are strictly instructed to sell the expensive suit first. If you just dropped $495 on a suit, suddenly a $95 sweater doesn't seem expensive at all. It feels trivial. The same goes for shoes, belts, and shirts. By setting up the contrast, they drain our wallets effortlessly. Real estate agents do this too. When Cialdini went undercover, he met a salesman named Phil, who showed him the ropes. Phil always started his tours by showing potential buyers what he called setup properties. These were run-down, wildly overpriced dumps that the company had no intention of ever selling. They existed purely for contrast. Phil loved watching his clients' eyes light up when he finally showed them the genuine target house. After walking through a couple of terrible dumps, the regular house looked like a magnificent palace. Oh, and we definitely can't forget the car dealership trap. Auto dealers are absolute masters of this. They wait until the entire massive base price of the car has been negotiated and locked in. Only then do they start suggesting the options: tinted windows, a better radio, special tires. Compared to a $15,000 base deal, an extra $100 for a radio seems completely petty. But because they bring them up independently, sequentially, the final price balloons, leaving the buyer holding a signed contract wondering what just happened, while the dealer smiles the knowing smile of a jiu-jitsu master. So what does this all mean for you? Why does this matter? Well, because you're navigating this jungle every single day. The next time you're shopping, negotiating, or simply being asked for a favor, I really want you to listen closely for that click whir feeling. Recognize when your shortcuts are being hijacked. Understanding these fixed action patterns and principles like perceptual contrast is your absolute best defense against the invisible sales tactics happening all around you. But remember, the contrast principle is just one weapon in this arsenal. As we wrap up this explainer on the foundation of influence, I want to leave you with a thought about human obligation. Consider this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson: "Pay every debt as if God wrote the bill." It's a heavy thought, isn't it? And it perfectly sets up our next major psychological trap. We've explored how we can be triggered by a single word or a simple price tag. But what happens when someone hands you a gift you didn't even ask for? Are you ready to face the overwhelming, ancient power of reciprocation? That is exactly what we'll uncover next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope this structured look at the psychology of persuasion has empowered you to view your next trip to the store in a whole new light. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll catch you on the next one.